Awesome. So yeah, here we go. Welcome so much. Thank you so much for coming here to this Revillager community call. So I'm Jasper. I'm one of the co-founders of Revillager, and I've been working on it for about 3.5 years. This is Abby. She's been on our team for a little while now, and she's been a huge part of communicating to the world what we are and why we're doing what we're doing. And these community calls have been really about connecting with people who are interested in the vision for Revillager, which is really just about the revillaging movement. We've created an app that's specifically kind of platforms for villages that exist to be able to communicate and ethically keep their data and really function well. And we really hope to build that out to become something that, wherever you are on the villaging journey, you can start to build your village or find your village. And when we talk about village, for me and for us at Revillager, village isn't necessarily an eco village in the forest. It can be any kind of co-living situation. It's really a community that shares intention, like intentional community, but also shares place. And so obviously in person is very important. So it could be in an apartment building, it could be in a suburb, it could be in forest, whatever it is. Village making to us is really about just the human need for community and connection. And we wanted to do this series of various really important topics for Village. And the first one, which is today, is a really, really important one. It's basically the foundation for everything that Village is. It's the vision, the values, the purpose, and the agreements that create kind of the bedrock of Village. So before kind of getting into those topics and a few kind of exercises, one thing is I'd love if you have a pen and paper, um, just get that handy. If you'd rather just type on your computer, that's fine too. I'm just going to ask a few questions and would love for you to just take a moment to answer them on your own. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of it all, would love to just get a real quick share of your name, where you're coming from right now, and kind of where you are in your journey of villaging. So are you just kind of village curious? Are you starting to look to create one? Are you currently forming one, or are you already living one? So yeah, we'll just do a quick round. I can start. My name is Jasper Circus. I live in Cowichan Valley, Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. And I am 4 years into living in a intentional community in the forest here by the river. And we are now about 42 people, including a handful of kids. That's kind of where I'm at. Abby, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, I'm Abby. I'm living in Calgary, Alberta at the Herding Cats Collective. We have a home of 7 adults. Yeah, and we all live together. We cook dinner and eat together every night. And yeah, we're pretty independent, but we have a lot of things that we try to work on together and do our best to use sociocracy to organize the home and make things fair for the renters and also the homeowners.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. Craig, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I'm also in Calgary, and we've got we're renting a house here. There's 5 of us living in the house. 2 of us moved in first, me and Valentina, who is one other person. We both have connections with community groups in Calgary. I was just talking with Abby earlier that we know some of the same people. The kind of the potluck circle, the sociocracy circle. And it was our intention to create a community, and we invited roommates to live with us on the basis we wrote the ads on the basis like we want people that are interested in creating community in our house. Housing situation in Calgary is such that people will say just about anything to get a room. So the first few people we got here, they're okay to live with. No real complaints. But we're off to a really slow start with really developing community with events and workshops and all the stuff that we envisaged at first. And personally, I struggle a bit with just wanting to do all of the things in theory, but in practice, I've got limited energy. And so it's, working with my own personal constraints.
Cool. Thanks, Greg. Renee, would you like to go?
It's actually Renata,
Oh,
but
Renata, sorry.
no worries. I am just curious. I'm learning, trying to find new skills, trying to find connections to community, trying to connect my own various communities in my life. Present, I live in Langley, big old house and a big old piece of property. And yeah, I'm definitely interested in learning to live with people. Presently, it's just myself and my 2 children at home. And yeah, learning,
Awesome.
connecting.
Thanks, Renata.
Thank
Appreciate that. Rosanna, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. I'm Dutch Portuguese and currently in Amsterdam visiting family. I've been living as a digital nomad for the past 8 years, so I don't have a home at all. And mostly in Asia, Europe, and Latin America. I'm trying to find an eco village to settle in, so I kind of started a little research and a little tour. So I don't know if you guys ever heard of Tamera in Portugal. I've been there for my intro week. I'm going back to do a course about community, and then later this year I'll head to Biacanga in Brazil to visit that eco village. So let's see where I end up. If maybe now I'm going to be a eco village nomad instead of just someone who finds one. But hopefully I'll find one where I feel like I could settle and commit. So that's my journey.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, we actually have connections to Tamara. Ian McKenzie, who's on our team, just is launching currently a documentary about Tamara called The Village of Lovers.
Right, of course. Yes, I heard about
Yeah.
it. I haven't seen it, but I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, it's really good, and he's been working on it for 7 years, going back and forth between Tamara and elsewhere, and he's finally launching it now, and they're going to have a big summit around it, and we're going to be partnering with them on that. So yeah, it's super exciting. Tamara is really inspiring for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna move lots of things for Tamara and for eco villages in general. So
Yeah,
it'll be exciting.
100%. Valentina, can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, I'm a roommate with Craig.
Oh, okay, right.
On the background.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So we know where you're coming from. Awesome. Well, thanks for introducing yourselves. So, like I said, we're kind of going to get into the nitty-gritty foundation, and I can't stress enough how important this is to do individually, but then also with whoever you want to be in community with. I'm learning the hard way through my own community what happens when that foundation isn't really strong. You think that you can kind of get by, and you can for a little while, but then as things start to come up, challenges, emotions, conflict, if you don't have that bedrock, that really strong foundation, then it's really hard to keep everything else up, and things will dissipate, and a lot of communities struggle, and a lot of communities fail and pull apart. So we're really trying to address that. Just like a strong house or building, you need a really strong foundation to build upon, and that's what this call is really about. And so the foundation that we've really come to is your purpose, which is your why, your values, which is your how, your vision, which is your what, and then your agreements, which kind of becomes your who. And we kind of move concentrically out from that. We really have to understand our why to be able to understand our how, to be able to understand our what, to be able to understand our who. And whether you're looking to go into a community, or whether you're wanting to start one, or you're kind of figuring that out somewhere in between, having the clarity around these pieces is so important to know if this is a right fit for you and for anyone coming in and for you joining someone else. So the first part of that is the purpose, the why. And the purpose is like the reason you're creating Village in the first place. It's the North Star that's going to guide you, especially when things get hard or you feel lost. Having that North Star is really important. Why are you embarking on this journey? What inspires you about villaging? What drives you to work through the big challenges? Because if you don't have something to drive through the challenges will, degrade your efforts and it'll be hard to keep going. So it's really important to get clear on your purpose first and foremost. So you know without a doubt why your village exists and why you are committed to the project and the community. So first little mini exercise, just taking 2 minutes. And again, you can write this down with a pen or you can write it on your computer, but I want you to answer 2 basic questions. One is, why are you revillaging in the first place? Or another way to say that is, why do you want community in this way? And the second question is, why is this important to you and your community? And those, they'll have overlap. But if you could just take 2 minutes, write down your why. Why are you interested in this? And you can write as much as you want, as little as you want. But yeah, just keep it flowing, see what comes up. And we'll let you know when 2 minutes is up and we can talk about that. Awesome. So just for a few minutes, I'd love to kind of talk about this. And if you're open to sharing what you wrote down, I'd love to hear. I can share real quick what I wrote down. So kind of my number one is connection and, human connection. And with that is support, feeling like I'm supported by people around me, feeling that I can be intimate with people around me, meaning like authentic, not sexual, but like wanting to have deeper relationships around me. Also, I believe that humans work better together and that we can live better together. I want to be closer to the land and to my food. I want my kids to grow up in village. That's really actually one of the most important things for me. I have 2 children and I really believe that children, grow better in community. And I want to grow as a person. So those are my whys. And if anyone popcorn style wants to share any of their whys, now would be great.
Yeah, I can share. I put down for why I want to live in community is due to the way the world is like changing and shifting and like climate change and like economic instability and wealth gap and all of this. It feels to me like living in community is a really helpful way we can like insulate ourselves a little bit from the turbulence of a potential in the future. And be able to protect our mental health and our physical health and to not be surprised when maybe things start falling apart, but to be ready to kind of rebuild and have systems in place to make decisions and to cooperate and work together so that we're able to handle those crises if and when they do come up. And then what is important to me, or why is this important to my community? Oh yeah, I kind of answered it like what's important in my community. I guess that's not quite exactly the same, but fairness and like valuing all voices and holding our leaders accountable is kind of, part of an important part of community for me.
Sweet, let me share.
I'm happy to share.
Yeah, love that.
Did I interrupt someone?
No, go ahead.
I wrote down that I liked all of your shares as well. They resonate very much. I believe that the way that the mainstream society works is unhealthy for me and for a lot of other humans. I believe we need to restore a culture of trust, support, and care for each other, get reacquainted to what it means to share values and try to live in integrity with them on a daily basis. And this way we can start healing our nervous systems again and feel more energized to even look out for each other and actively work on world issues, perhaps on, a smaller scale. But yeah, I think we're just kind of mostly in survival mode at the moment. And question number 2, why is this important to you? Well, because I'm tired of traveling and I need a home, and I can't really go back to mainstream, to normal life and like settle somewhere and not know my neighbors. Especially since actually the nomad community is pretty tight and supportive in itself, however, not very committing. And it goes in spurts of 2 to 3 months together, and then everyone goes their own way, and then you see each other again. But still, I think that year-long dedication to a mission and to physically have proximity to each other will help. So those are my answers.
Amazing, thank you.
And yes, all of those reasons resonate really strongly with me too. Why for me would be connection, joy, helping each other, living with others with a similar understanding of the world, and for why it's important, I'd like to make some change in the world and find some purpose. I think together we stimulate each other to be more. When we're stuck in our own little echo chamber, it just kind of goes round and round and round. But as soon as you make connection, it's like the zap. You see things differently, you feel things differently, you find new opportunities and new ways to do things. Finding your own talents, care for each other, our world, and make positive change ultimately. And hopefully, we can survive and thrive better.
Thanks for sharing.
Particularly for the children too, as well.
Yeah.
I
For
see
sure.
kids, they're largely disconnected from the world and living. They actually have incredible online communities with friends from all over the world, right? Nice to bring that closer to home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just find that it's like I don't have a family of my own here, so I've been kind of living on my own for a long time, and it gets really hard for some reasons. Sometimes it's just the physical logistics of, cooking, cleaning, looking after a household all by yourself. It's just easier to have other people around to help out with that, um, to share the burden. But it's also, for mental health and social health reasons. We as human beings are really wired to connect in a social group, and so we need that. And I was volunteering in emergency response stuff, like not actually as a medic or anything like that, but just with the Canadian Red Cross and just helping people out when they've been evacuated from their homes and stuff. And the number of people that I met that were that did not have anyone in the community to turn to in a time of an emergency was just it was insane to me. Like, how do you not know anyone else in this community? How do you not have anyone that you can turn to? So, like, a lot of those responses were just, an emergency management agency trying to help those people. And I'm glad we have those agencies and we have those supports, but really it's better to have more personal in strong community connections.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And just echo what everyone else said, a lot of the same reasons.
Yeah. Beautiful. Anyone else for a quick share before we move on? Wonder Squad, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Jennifer Eve. Actually, we've met, but
Oh, hey,
this is
Jennifer.
my business, Daily Wonder. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Nice to see you or hear you. Yeah, we were just going over purpose and our why for revillaging.
Right. Should I give a very quick
Sure. Yeah.
response?
Yeah.
So I sorry for jumping on late, but I do echo everything I did hear everyone say. And I think my experience of being in a really tight community over a long period of time is just how your unconscious parts and blind spots and areas of yourself that can be polished and refined and become just your highest self are just, it just happens in such a beautiful way. And I've found myself to become way more accountable and responsible and open to understanding that I'm part of a they, or I'm part of a we and not a they. Like my mentality was always, well, they will do it, or they, it's always someone else had a responsibility that didn't seem to be connected to me. And working in a tight community for so long was like, oh, there's no they that's going to do it. It's going to be we that will do it. And that's really been life-changing. And then of course the climate of the world that we're in just feels like it's more important. And also, like I have a certain aspect of gifts to share with a community, but there are many areas I don't excel in. Like for example, food growing is something that I've just never in my life built the skills in. So to be able to know how important that is, and then to align with people who have better skills in that area where I can offer my help, but I'm not running the show, is very comforting as well. And then aging in a community where like I'm a half extrovert, half introvert. And because of that, unless I meet someone on a really deep level, I don't feel like I've made a lot of friends. So whenever I spend a lot of time in community and we're learning each other because we have a common vision and we're working together, I feel like they really see me and I really see them. And then I form such deep, beautiful friendships that I just don't find are easy to form in the regular way. So yeah, those are my reasons.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, everyone. So, this is kind of the center point of our foundation is our why, and very much the core of what we're going to be building in any kind of village or community. And so the kind of out of that root comes our values and how that plays into, how we act and how we connect and what we want. And shared values are absolutely essential to a healthy community to last and to grow. A lot of the most successful communities are religious because their religion holds them very much tied to a set of values that they all agree on. It doesn't have to be that way, but if we're not just coming into it with a very clear book to point to, we have to build them ourselves. And values are what drives the movement of the vision, and also holds everyone in the community accountable to how they're acting and what decisions are being made. So similar to a set of commandments in a holy book, it's the cornerstone of your shared beliefs in action. So again, we're going to do just 2 minutes to write down 2 questions or two kind of topic areas. The first one is, what are your core values? And you can write 5 to 10. They don't have to be complex, but like really core values of just you as an individual in your life. It could be respect, it could be honesty, and then you can make it more specific than that if you like. And then once you've written those 5 to 10 out, I want you to consider, how does that value show up in community? What is the value of the life in community? What is the ethical and moral values in community? And also, really importantly, what are the non-negotiable needs you have in order to live in a village or a community? So take 2 minutes, again, just core values of yourself as a person, and then from that, your core values in community. And again, you can make that as simple or complex as you like. Just write as much as you want for 2 minutes, and then we'll come back together and talk about that. Okay, so I know for me, I wanted to write a lot more, but because we're limited on time, we'll just stop there, wherever you're at. And values is an interesting thing because we all kind of just sense that we just know our values. And what I've noticed in a lot of kind of groups and a lot of kind of development work, self-development work, is that sometimes our values don't always match up with, or what our perceived values don't actually match up with how we act, and therefore our values sometimes can be different than what we thought. But it's really interesting to take the value of what you really value and put it to community. So I'll just say a few of mine. So one of mine is respect. And what that came down to for community is that I respect myself. I'm self-responsible. I take care of myself. I put myself as a high priority. Respect for others, you know, kindness, compassion, and respect for the land and the planet and the place that I'm in and the community that surrounds me, outside of my village. So, you know, respect for the land is a really interesting one too, because people have different relationships to land, depending on, you know, how, just how they grew up and what their current situation is. Another one I have is creativity. Creativity is very important to me, and so what that means for community is like I want to be able to creatively connect with people. I want to be able to creatively express. I want to be able to, you know, have music jams and art jams, and also bring people in who can teach that kind of stuff. And so, you know, creativity is a really important one. And another one that for me personally is playfulness and humor. And that's something that I find lacking a lot in people's minds, especially when it comes to community. Because community can get very serious and it can get very stuffy, similar to kind of spirituality. And playfulness and humor has felt for me like a guiding rod for myself, but also for any community I'm in, that we don't take ourselves too seriously. And that we remember that like one of the reasons we're here is because we want to connect, and one of the best ways to connect and be present is to play and kind of let our inner child shine. So that's me. I'll stop there. If anyone else wants to share what their values are, and then maybe from that what the communal values are.
I could share a few of them around radical self-responsibility and conscious communication and integrity and accountability, joyful creative expression, courage for the truth, like truth with a capital T, I think. And for me, I'll just focus on one area of community where it would show up, you know, like it's inevitable that there's conflict amongst the people, certainly at the beginning when everyone's trying to find their place. And I just think like the more that people are accepting of what's required of them to step up and be courageous and face the difficult conversations and work from a place of, you know, radical responsibility, like I'm going to listen well and I'm going to own the parts I need to own and I'm going to speak what I need to say. Like so much learning happens and so much love is built and trust and safety. So those areas I just think are so important.
Mhm.
Totally agree. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
What you've both said, it really resonates strongly with me. It's like finding words for some ideas I have. My core values would be like respect, honesty, integrity, awareness, love, fairness, commitment, sharing, tolerance, the joy, you know, the fun, the play that you talked about, the creative, the reason to live, right? Reason for this whole game. How does that show up? It's really fundamentally what a lot of what you said in the Wonder Squad there is just the giving and allowing attention equally, the patience and the willingness to share. And I guess that really ties up with the commitment, you know, to, you know, living and acting your core beliefs out and how that's going to be in a day-to-day life and with a vision for a future.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. For myself, I struggle a bit to find a good balance between support and independence when it comes to, like, I want to be in a community where we're all supporting one another and we're also all carrying our own weight. when I one of my fears when I first put the word out that I wanted to create a community where we all support each other is I did not want to attract people who are paralyzed and just looking for somebody to look after them. And that can just be people who are like, I can't help it. I'm a victim. Life has been really hard, and I just need a place to live where everyone just looks after me. And so it's finding the balance between people looking after themselves and looking after each other is a big one for me, and also the freedom for vulnerable, radical self-expression and creativity and fun and all that stuff too. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
I can share mine. I think for me, my core values are honesty, authenticity, respect, cooperation, non-hierarchical decision making, accountability, personal growth, love and care and things like that. And for me, living in community, I guess the main one that comes up a lot for me is accountability. Just taking ownership of like my own emotional responses to the things that people do. I get triggered really easily, and I get really upset sometimes about like small things. And I used to not really think about that much, but like really think that it was the other person who caused me to be upset, and then just like feel really justified in however I maybe hurt the relationship. But living in community is teaching me that like if I'm feeling triggered, then I need to like sit with that and spend some time and figure out like what this is connected to. And then when I have the capacity to communicate it in like a loving way and maybe a firm way, but also like taking ownership for my trigger in addition to maybe asking for a behavior change or asking for the person to have greater awareness around that. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing because we often want to like change people who trigger us, but it's like our responsibility to kind of hold space for ourselves and recognize that like just because you were triggered doesn't really mean that the other person is fully responsible. They're responsible for their part, but each add or make it bigger based on our own experiences and giving people kind of that benefit of the doubt. Like, you probably didn't mean it this way, right? Hoping that you're in community with people who care about how you feel and who, try to improve if they have some toxic traits or habits, because we all have those in different ways at different times. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Shall I go?
Yeah, if you'd like to.
So I wrote down helping others, being generous with my support, commitment and loyalty, enjoying myself and enjoying nature, self-love and healing, respect for the culture and wisdom of others, and curiosity, learning and improving, clear communication and honesty, integrity. I guess these are all things that I've heard you guys say before in different or even similar words. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing when you start to share these things, how much people do agree. Even though like a lot of us don't know each other at all, there's like some pretty clear core values that we all share, and I think that's really interesting and really important to establish. And of course, as you then take this into the vision and you take it into the agreements, it's then distilling it, because we can all agree that we want to respect each other, but what does that actually look like, and how do we actually act like that in person? And when boundaries are crossed and respect doesn't feel like it's held and we feel disrespected, what do we do about that? And so this is really important that we're like building outwards. So the next piece of the puzzle, kind of coming out of the values, is the vision. And the vision is like the what your village wants to be. If you're desiring to create and sustain village, brainstorm on the ultimate vision of the village based on your purpose and based on your values. This is where you can dream really big and think where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, or even generations ahead. And it's helpful to have long-term set goals as well as shorter set goals laid out. So you kind of have a roadmap of where you want to go. So for this part, I'm really asking that you kind of really dream into what is without the constraints of too much reality. What is the dream? What is the vision for what you want in your community, whether you're creating it or whether you're joining it? So some questions to consider for this little exercise. Well, I guess the main question is what does your village look like? What is the vision? And just some supporting questions is your village a place where people can connect around growing food? Is it a social enterprise to fund the lives of the community members? Is it a think tank or an education center? Is it a retreat center? Is it a research center? Is it all of the above? Is it none of those things? Like really thinking of like, what does it look like? Are you on land growing food? Are you in a house being a collective home? Are you connected to other houses? Are you holding events? Are you making money with it? These are all just like starting to get into how does it actually play out in 3D. So again, just 2 minutes to write out your vision of your village, what you really want. And you can start that now. Awesome. So again, these are just prompts. If you wanted to write more, you can keep writing after this call. This is really important because this will help you find the community you're looking for, and it will also help you figure out like what is really the dream. And you're gonna have steps to get there. Like I said, short-term goals, long-term goals. I can share mine real quick. My vision for village is a large piece of land in nature with up to 150 people. I wouldn't want to live in a village more than that, but up to that feels okay for me. I'm very extroverted. And lots of families, lots of kids, and lots of different generations, elders. They can live together, they can grow food together, and they can create together. I see a retreat center for healing and transformation that actually brings in money to the community. I see an event space for local community events, workshops, and festivals that also brings in money for the community. I see thought leaders from around the world coming to host workshops and retreats and really learning, and people coming to explore, get inspired, and then take that into the world, into their own local communities, and starting to create some templates around how to do this thing called revillaging. And I see a place full of clowns and circus people that play and put on shows and kind of create from a place of imagination and fantasy. And yeah, that's for me, my vision. Anyone else wants to share? Go ahead.
See, I guess my vision is very rudimentary and just connected to my values. The vision would be living in a place where we're connected and independent and interdependent. We'd be close to nature, like-minded people with varied talents. We'd have our own personal space and a common ground. There'd be projects for personal and community and global development, and ultimately sustainability, sustenance, and I do see this very much, being multi-ages, multicultural. I just love everything that sparks growth and life, love, creativity, and yes.
Thanks for that. Big yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go. I don't know if this would have to be in the community where I live, but Jasper mentioned having a community of like economic support where you're working on projects that are bringing money into the community. So I've always been interested in business incubators, not just the classic mainstream incubator where it's like, here's your desk, good luck, but more a group of people that are working together to help somebody launch a business. And it could be a cooperative thing where you have the entire community is working on a business together, or it could be an individual thing where someone is supported to launch something on their own, or it could be a combination thereof. I don't have really clear ideas on that, but that's one thing that would be important to me.
Mhm.
Cool, that's a cool idea. Thanks. Maybe time for one more. If anyone wants to share?
I can share. Yeah, I think my vision is around living on the land, growing our own food, being self-sustainable and like able to collect our own water and process our own waste, make our own compost, and just being as natural and independent from the system as possible. And also, yeah, like little tiny homes maybe on like a rural property and having some sort of like posting and unschooling curriculum for children growing up who want an alternative to the public education system, maybe the kids in the community and also the kids around from, whatever people live around want to come and learn in a way that's more part of nature and more, useful life skills. Still passing the curriculum, but like, to graduate and stuff, but just with a much more, heart-centered approach to education and more body intelligent focus. And then, where people are like spiritually connected to each other, to the earth, to the full moon cycles, solstices, equinoxes, just kind of those natural gathering times that we get throughout the year really call to me. So I like living in a community that has a lot of value for that. One day.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. This is definitely a one-day exercise, and from that you can start to parse out like the roadmap towards it. And to say as well, all of these things that we were discussing will naturally change and shift. We all change and shift as people. The community constellation changes and shifts in terms of who's in it. And as that happens, you have to keep coming back to these things. It's good even every year to do like a review of, what is the vision? Are we getting to our goals? Do we want to change our goals? Are the values being held? Is our why still our why? These are all really important things. Our community is in that process right now. It's really coming back to this foundation and figuring out what to change and how to move forwards. So just noticing the time, I just want to touch on the last part, which, we've taken our why and our how and our what, our purpose, our values, our vision. And from that, we start to create agreements. And agreements are like the glue that holds the foundation together. After you've brainstormed all of these concepts, you can start to create a list of agreements. It's going to help you achieve your goals. So the agreements are really important to be clear and concise. And again, they can change as you go. For example, the agreement is always to resolve a conflict before it becomes resentment, which is important in most communities. The agreement could involve ways and steps in which a conflict would be resolved. And there could be an agreement for individual conflict, and there could be an agreement for group conflict. And there's lots of conflict resolution tools and models out there. So it's like picking one that we all agree on is an important part as well, because otherwise you're kind of not speaking the same language. It's up to you how precise you are with each agreement. But remember, like the more vague they are, the more it's left up to interpretation and the more misunderstanding there can be between people in the community. And it's easy to start making a list of agreements and suddenly you have like 100 agreements. And there can be like sub-agreements, like I said, like laying out steps of how to do something like conflict resolution. But in general, you kind of want to keep your agreements list, around like less than 30, just in the sense of people being overwhelmed, especially as people are coming into the community. Because like I said, this is kind of like the who. If people are coming into the community and you are able to hand them this list and say, hey, these are the agreements. Do you agree? and they're really precise and not overwhelming, not like 300 things, they can start to see, like, is this actually the community I want to be in? And it's a really good filtering, because something that I've experienced in my community, a lot of communities experience, is people come in saying they have the values, saying they have the why in the same way, even sometimes saying they have the exact same vision, but when it comes to agreements, they don't agree on certain things, and that's going to really take an impact on the community. So agreements are absolutely key. They're kind of like the code of conduct or the instruction manual for the culture and the protocol of the community. And it can always be pointed to when confusion and conflict arises. It's like a living document, and it can, it can really help the culture, the agreements, those who wish to join the community, and be able to see more clearly, where are you guys living up to your values, and where is it not happening? And then from there you can heal, you can change, you can grow. And one of the greatest energy drains for community are people joining and often leaving that are not in alignment with the values or the vision or the agreements, and therefore not really in the culture. So enculturation is a really important part, and if you're starting a community, you kind of have the openness to create the culture, but as people come in, obviously they have their input, and the culture has to kind of be emergent from who's there. So we don't have enough time to really go into exercise with this, but I do want to encourage you, based on what you just wrote, and you can do this right after the call or whenever you want, if you want, based on everything we just did, what are agreements that you feel are extremely important for a community that you live in, or your dream vision of a village? What would that look like? What would that document look like? And you might already have one, in which case look at it again and just see if it all lines up, and see if you can just like massage it and make it better and better and better. And if you're just starting to think about community, you could reach out to other people you're interested in creating community with, and be like, hey, these are some agreements I thought of, what do you think? You can get feedback. You can also look at a community like Tamara or any well-established community and say, like, okay, what are their agreements? Let's look at that. And you can be inspired, and you can also be like, oh, actually, I don't agree with that one part. And that might be just talking to them about it. What do they mean? But it also might be a clear indicator that that's actually not the village that you want to be a part of. So yeah, those are kind of pieces you can write down for yourself. Take a few minutes and just write down what you think the agreements should be. And it's just a good exercise in terms of also just relationships in general. And you can go over all of these exercises we did and go deeper for all of them. We only had an hour today, so we're just touching the surface. But these are all really important. And like I said, I can't stress enough, it's worth taking the time to do this. If you're starting a community, honestly, spending days in workshop with your people that you're founding the community with to get clear on this and workshop it, like really go through each one and figure out what that looks like in real life. Because all of this is theoretical, community is real life, and it when it hits the pavement, it can be very different than what you think. And most people just have to learn that through experience and fail, and that's okay, because we learn. So yeah, that's kind of the end of what I wanted to present. A few minutes here, if you're open to staying on a few more minutes. Any questions, any discussions, any inspirations that came out of that, specific to any of the topics we just touched on, or anything you want to share? We've got another 10 minutes. Me and Abby, anyways, have another 10 minutes to hang on the call if you want to keep talking. Yeah, just pop in with anything.
I'm curious, Jasper, would you be willing to share your agreements like that your community has, just as an example?
Sure, yeah, I'd have to pull them up 1 second. And well, as to say too, we are in a phase of reestablishing these agreements, because in the last year, some people have left, new people are coming in as owners, as share owners. We just got the news a month ago that our share owners are leaving, and so there's like a big moment for us of uncertainty and recalibrating.
Yep.
But yeah, let me just find those. So yeah, it is a bit of a long list. The main points: self-responsibility, So this is speaking to responsible for taking care of ourselves, mental health, physical health, emotional health, responsibility for our own experience. So not, putting a narrative on someone else, projecting as much as possible. Obviously, we all do it, but that's kind of the aim of the agreement, is to own your experience. Self-empowerment, agency, self-direction, self-love, attunement to individual needs, desires, and boundaries, and a willingness to communicate them. And again, that's going to be something that's just, everyone's going to do their best. Not everyone's going to be able to do it all the time, but being able to communicate the feelings are really important. And practicing accountability and a willingness to be in an ongoing learning and unlearning process. So that's all under self-responsibility. And then we have a section for communication. And so this comes down to requests, needs, boundaries, mistakes, and conflicts. So we have a little bit of a protocol there, make direct communication with the person if you have any charge, emotional charge, or resentment coming up. If direct communication is too intense, you get a mediator from the land, so someone you trust, to help mediate that conversation or that conflict resolution, and just making sure that they're unbiased. If you have a community with like a professional, I would make that person the mediator in a sense. Or sometimes it requires bringing someone from outside the community. Curiosity around creating a space for group process, so navigating communication, conflict. Tamara is amazing for Forum, which they created and it's kind of spreading around the world. It's a really great way for community cohesion, communication, and conflict. Conflict mediation process, so figuring out which version of that we're doing. And so we actually haven't agreed on one conflict mediation process as a group, so that's something we're missing. But Forum feels like a good potential. Thanking no's, showing up with compassion for others, so really honoring other people's no's, even if that's like, hey, I want to talk, or I have a charge, do you have time to talk right now? They can say no. We all have to be able to say no, even if someone really needs to talk, you know what I mean? And it's okay to do that. And then, we have another big section for culture of service and help. I'm not going to get into every single one, but culture of integrity is another one, which comes down to, radical authenticity, communication styles. So we've all agreed to practice NVC. One thing that I would like to agree on further as we rebuild this is to actually take courses in it, because some of us have and some of us haven't. And so even though we've all agreed to do NVC, not everybody really is at the same level of understanding how to do that. So that's an agreement I would like to see moving forward, is that as people come into the community, they actually do some courses on NVC and also governance models. That's another place where we've been back and forth on a few governance models, but now that everything's shifting in terms of people, we're going to try and agree to one governance model that really holds us. And sociocracy is a great one, and holocracy, and there's a few. The next call will actually be about that. So conflict resolution, we have a whole section on that. We have a whole section on the land and how we treat the land. So agreements to never have chemicals enter the land. So bad soaps, shampoos, laundry detergents, because we have a water table here. Being aware of the ingredients and things, anything we're using on the land or that could enter the water table. Making sure that guests and friends are aware of this, because a lot of people will show up with their own shampoos and not think about it because they're from the city or whatever. It goes on, but basically it's around tending the land. And then the last part is around how we actually agree to treat our home. And so this is around like privacy, everyone having their own space, how we want to be approached if there's guests on the land. Like, are we allowing them to go through our lawn? Are we, do we want knocks? We actually have just started an agreement where we have this thing called a hag flag, which is like, if we don't want someone to come talk to us or knock on our door, we have a flag that says we're not open right now, essentially. And then if we're open, we switch it. And so it's just like a visual sign for people, like, oh, okay, they're being private right now. So and that list goes on, but kind of like how we actually think of our home and our individual autonomy in relationship with the community. So
Mhm.
that's our document. We made it about 2 years ago, and right now we're gonna basically go into everything and redevelop it. And I think there's a lot of missing gaps. So I'm really interested in working those out.
Okay, well, thank you. That like is helpful just to get some of those categories.
Totally.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, anyone else have any shares or questions before we close up? Going once, going twice. Okay, sweet. Well, so first of all, I wanted to say big thank you and appreciate your time, taking the time and space to be here. It really means a lot to us. And we're starting to develop these ideas, or at least the way we communicate these ideas. So any feedback is really helpful. You can call us or email us or talk to us on Circle. And also wanted to share that we're going to be doing 4 more of these in a series, and the next call is in 2 weeks, same time, Thursday at 12 Pacific time. And the next series is going to be on structures. So building out of this foundation, now we're starting to build the structure. So we'll be going into governance models, conflict resolution model. No, sorry, that's a different series. Governance models, accountability models, task management kind of stuff, structures for how we actually get things done on the land and how we actually build and how we make decisions. So that'll be in 2 weeks. So if you can come, great. If you can share that with friends who might be interested, please do. And again, it'll be kind of discussion format, so we can hear each other. And yeah, we're with that kind of wrapping up today. Really appreciate hearing all of your thoughts and voices. I hope that this was helpful in some way to clarify some of where you're at in your own villaging journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking forward to deepening into these topics as time goes on, as we start to hopefully create more community collaboration around this movement of revillaging, which is already a movement, and there's already some collaboration. But one of our main whys and purposes with the Revillager is that we see villages, communities all over the place figuring this out, but it's hard, and everybody's kind of reinventing the wheel separately.
Yeah.
And it really is reinventing the wheel, because this is how humans live for most of our evolution. So we've just been divorced for long enough, we've forgotten. At least I have, and a bunch of us have. And we're trying to remember how to be in village, and we're trying to figure that out separately. And so one of our missions is to bring all of the people that are doing this work together, at least in some kind of space, so that we can learn from each other and be more of a mycelial network for learning, so that when one village learns something, the whole network of villages can learn it and we can all grow together. Because I really believe that that's going to be the only way that revillaging is able to really prosper and spread. And so yeah, appreciate your support in that, and hope to see you again soon. And again, thanks so much for being here.